What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Lungile Mayindi. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Ironheart podcast. I am super excited to be making a new episode, and I'm super excited to be making new content. Okay, so in today's video, we are going to be talking about working on a sports documentary series. Okay, so this is part 2. I made a first video. I thought I'd make another one because I have more info to give and more knowledge to share. Okay. So recently I worked on a sports documentary and it was really cool. The documentary comprised of like 60 hours of interviews. And that was about 2 sports teams, and there were interviews from each of the sports team members, probably 10 to 12 teammates from each team. The documentary was about 2 soccer teams, local ones, probably 2 of the bigger ones in South Africa, and it was a story about their rivalry, where they come from, how the club started. There was also interviews with the management, journalists, and legends who played for the teams throughout the year. Some of the legends played for both of the teams throughout their soccer career, and we also interviewed some of the coaches. Okay, so this was a really cool experience. And I just thought I'd share it because I've always been fascinated by documentaries. In fact, to be honest, I was fascinated, but I just thought they took too long until I actually was part of the process as a content director. So as you can imagine, this docu-series was supposed to be a 3-part, a 60-minute series, 48-minute series, and we were working from 60 hours of original interviews. On top of that, we also had archive content, we have footage of the soccer game. So it was a lot of content that had to be dwindled down and cut down to make a 3-part, 48-minute series. So something that I learned from working on this documentary is that, it takes a long time to go through all the content. So one thing we did with this client, we transcribed all the interviews using an app called Trent, and it made a video of all the interviews. And then from that, we had to make a content script, which is basically breaking down all the interviews into different segments of the script. So first, there's a script for the project, like a guideline script, and then now we had to make a content plan. So which clips are we taking and where we're going to put them for each interview. So obviously the first part of the docu would be like the beginning of the clubs, how they started, all that stuff. So instead of just going through all the footage and logging it, we put them through Trent, and then we go into the videos in Trent and use time codes to actually build a sequence. Okay. So what we did is I had to make a content plan script. So I had to go through the footage on Trent and then take the time codes and put them on a script, and then give that script to an assistant editor who would compile a timeline with all the footage that I want in a specific segment. And then after we compile the footage for the content plan, we would give that footage to an editor who would start cutting it down, because the very first cut of the edit was probably like 3.5 hours, And this wasn't for the series, actually, the whole episode. This was just actually a cut for a segment. So each episode was 48 minutes and it had 6 segments. So in order for us to cut the footage for one segment, after going through making a content plan, giving it to an editor, the footage for one segment, which is supposed to be 8 minutes in total, was around 3 hours. So when we give that 3-hour timeline to an editor, the editor would then start cutting down that footage until it would get back to 8 minutes. So the first version of the cut would cut that 3 hours into like 45 minutes. And then the next version, they would cut that 45 minutes to like 15 minutes. And then the next version of that edit would be cutting that 15 minute to an 8-minute segment. So it's really hectic, and it took a lot of time. So for each segment, it would take like a week or 2 weeks. So you can imagine how long a documentary takes to make. So each segment would take like maximum 3 weeks to cut. So imagine there's like 6 segments per episode, and one segment takes 3 weeks, and then the next 3 weeks we have to cut the next segment. So it was really hectic, but it was really insightful and interesting. And I found it very challenging, but like a great thing to do. I've always wondered how they do these big sports documentaries like The Last Dance. There's a music one with Dr. Trey. I forgot what the name is. Those documentaries, when they're made, they have like hundreds of interviews and thousands of hours of archive material, content, and they have to go through all of that content and make a 4-part documentary series. And it takes a long time. Usually, sometimes it takes even 3 years to make a documentary like that. But this was something similar, and we kind of did the same thing in terms of sort of going through all the footage. We would transcribe the footage, put it on on a document, and then cut the documentary on paper, literally doing a paper edit before we start cutting a segment. So if you've ever wondered how documentaries work, that's how we did it, and it was really, really insightful. Hopefully the documentary will come out sometime this year or next year, but it was a really, really, really cool process. So if you ever wondered how documentaries are made, that's like a little peek and a sample of how documentaries are made. In terms of the crew members, we had a producer, we had a director, we had me, I was content directing, we had 2 assistant editors, and we had 2 other editors actually, because we had to catch up and we were behind. We also had a post-production coordinator. So if you can imagine, it takes a really big team to actually work on something like this. But yeah, it was really interesting. I hope this video is helpful to you and you get to learn something. And if you have questions or if you've worked on a documentary, drop a comment below, or hit that like button, hit that bell button, also so you keep notified every time we drop a new video. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, you can actually just give us a rating, or if you listen to this on iTunes, just give us a rating, drop a comment, give us a review. We would appreciate that. Until next time, guys, that is it for the Unheard podcast. And this is how to make a sports documentary series. Hope you enjoy this content. Until next time, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.